Certainly. The ministerium began a few years ago with a number of clergy persons, actually four of us, men, clergy persons in the Indianapolis area that looked a lot like me. We said that we wanted to ensure that we came out of uh, sometimes our own silos and that we worked together on what we distinguish to be the issues that the prophet of old was concerned about, vanguarding the causes of widows and children. And so we said, look, with all of our positions and priorities with our own ministries and even sometimes our own egos, let's make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do to ensure that those that can easily fight for themselves have somebody to vanguard their causes. So now we have grown so that we have reached well beyond that original group. Our first growth notion, even on that day, was that we would have an opportunity to find anybody other than ourselves, anybody that perhaps does not look like us, think like us, and even ideologically, we have to transcend, go across whatever the aisle, and break through whatever barrier there is that keeps us from pooling together our resources, our collective assets, and our energy so that we can do work. We began then to think about how we could be most effective. And historically, we noticed that if you want to really change things, certainly the documentation is found in the shift in public policy. And so there's litigation, there's legislation, that those are ways that we see historical change memorialized. And so we said that the best thing for us to do is to work at the state level. So we began not as immediately as we did to other people, but we began to reach out around the state to ensure that that proverbial letter that comes to a state legislator on a particular issue does not simply come from Marion County and from people in one homogenous group, but that letter comes from everyone around the state. And we found ourselves to be impactful. The first year, we began sort of in a scholastic way. We began that first year, we began by getting together with the faith community to have what we called a faith community consultation. We made quick friends with the folk at the United Way that were dealing with pre-K because we determined that education was the great social issue of our day and that everybody loves babies, so let's start there. And so we began to work with the United Way and pulled together an educational consultation event that pulled together the advocacy community of the area and other educational advocates. And at that time, Dr. Gwen Kelly from the Children's Policy and Law Initiative was invited to come, and she gave a presentation on a Senate bill that was intended as a reactionary bill, but the bill would take 12 and 13-year-olds to jail as and with adults. And so that's children. And so we were able to fight in very interesting ways that first year, and we pooled resources and we used influence and we had conversations and did some high-low things and led a campaign to ensure that 279 did not pass. The next year, Senator Hutchins came back with the same type of bill, but this time, as opposed to just taking kids to jail as 12 and 13-year-olds for attempted murder, she added 10 more things that you could go to jail for at the age of 12 and 13. We fought it again. This year, we were able to see that Senate Bill 368 did pass, and that was a positive bill that we were able to support with positive language and positive energy so that we are not just fighting against, we're fighting for now not just pre-K, but children's, not just children's justice reform, not juvenile, but children, because these are children. Mom and infant mortality and lead are our children's issues that we're working on right now. Well, so the ministerium is a group among clergy, And so we strategize among clergy, and we have the ability to educate, but then also mobilize our congregations for specific things. Sometimes it is to be physical and to be in person, but certainly in this what I call intra-corona period we're in right now, we have to, and we're challenged to be even more technological and creative then in the ways in which we do social justice and advocacy. And so we have an opportunity, and once again, in a pensive way, I believe, but certainly in a systematic way, we had a faith community consultation. We brought folk together. We added children's issues to children's juvenile justice issues. We added that to pre-K. That following summer, we had a lot of advocacy training because many had never been involved in advocacy work or even formal advocacy work. And we all need to improve our skills if we are old advocates, right? And so we went through a process of training preachers, and that carries over to congregations. But at the same time, we looked at what legislation was coming down the pike and what was germane or keyed in on these children's, widow, most vulnerable issues. And we start with a big list and triage, and we've been making relationships internally with an internal coalition of corporate America and the advocacy community working together, as well, reaching out throughout the state to make sure the tentacles of the ministerium reach out. But once again, we have the influence that comes from around the state, and to ensure that folk don't just look like me, but they look like the Hollywood squares that we see here today. They look like the kingdom of God. And I believe that's how we're effective. And that's how we bring the kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. We say it like this, that we are leaders of congregations. So not just churches, but we're leaders of congregations. But we're also faith leaders, because what I've discovered is that lay people and sometimes empowered, sometimes directed lay people can be even more so effective than trying to get the big person or the person with the title. If you have the person that has the dispatch of the person with the title, and you're a layperson, then you can be effective if your passion is there and your heart is there. And so we have wonderful lay people that are involved in what we do. Certainly pastors from every denomination and every faith. They have come together around these singular issues, poverty, and making sure that we bring relief to those that need it and to fight for those that can't easily fight for themselves. We have an organization that I started maybe about 10 years ago called The Grindery, that helps businesses get up and going. You can find us at thegrindery.org. But The Grindery is teaching everybody that as you begin your business, even if it's a local business with this technology, you need to make sure that you are at least seeking to market to 1 billion people. To 10 billion people, that the entire world through this technology can in some way engage, and you can then use that as your enterprise. I think it's the same way with the ministerium. And so in a practical way, we began in a coffee shop with 4 people. Now we're moving out throughout the state, and I think that there are fractals. I think that there are people doing like things around the country. And I have pastor friends and college friends and people that are not just clergy persons, but good people of faith, people that are of goodwill, that are around the country. And if we could, one of those movies says, one band, one sound. If we could be synchronized, if we could learn to move as one, then there are not just lofty and spiritual things, but there's some practical, pragmatic things that we could do to affect national politics. And we've seen that there are world situations with this pandemic. There are things that we all need to be unified because we all share the same human experience. I'm shy of an absolute success. I hope that the ministerium, and then me personally, I certainly think that our work has sought to help the success of the movements that are taking place and the changes and the legislation this past legislative session that did not move forward, and some specific conversations once again that are ethical and moral conversations. There is a there is maybe hopefully a space in the heart for people to hear from God, and maybe through their agents with a collective voice, maybe we have an opportunity to talk to legislators and to have private conversations, and without ego and without the need for any other constituency than our churches to speak truth to power. That's what brings us together. And so, the issues, they seem to continue to come, and the voice of the faithful, the voice of the church, dare I say, the voice of the preacher, for me, the voice of the Black preacher cannot be muted during these times. But when the times are calling for a trumpet, a flute just won't do. And so we need the faithful to stand up, and we need to hear, and we need to speak, and not in the 1950s way, right? I never want you to think that we cannot create scenes from the 1950s, but understand that racism and social injustice and the division that causes democracy to be shattered and hope to be stillborn or laid dormant. These things are ethical and moral issues, and we have to make sure we're leading on that plane as well. It is continuous, but one of the interesting parts about the first notion for what the ministerium does is that we work most vigorously during the legislative session, and so from January to April every year, that's the really that's the weeds of it, the sausage making. And so we're in season and out of season. That's a religious expression, but we use that to say that, look, there are times that we're in season, and that's when legislative session is in. But then when we're out of season, that gives us a chance to have a little breather and to think differently and to strategize, as opposed to playing all of that defense. We get to play some offense, and uh, our hope is that we are not simply seen as a force when it comes to fighting things, but we are seen as a strategic partner with a collaboration with a wonderful group of people that are all concerned about right and justice and seeking morality and making sure that the democratic systems that we love so dearly are cherished. Oh, well, thank you. Now, the best way to see what we've done chronologically in 2021 is to go to our Facebook page, which is the Indianapolis Ministerium. That was the first thing that we set up when we did our first faith community consultation. Since we've had Vision Beyond Indianapolis, and so the indianaministerium.org, indianaministerium.org. That's where you can find our website, and you can contact me, area code 317-205-1022. And you can reach me at the Northwest Vision Development Center. And I am the proud pastor of First Baptist Church, North Indianapolis. And so with this, we thank you for the opportunity to share and appreciate the work that you're doing and lift you all up.